Let's be real for a second. If you've ever stared down an SOC 2 Type 2 compliance checklist, you know it can feel a bit like looking up at Mount Everest, or I don't know, maybe gearing up for a root canal without anesthesia. It is a massive, daunting 12-month project. But welcome to this explainer, because today, we're actually going to transform that overwhelmingly complex process into a confident, totally manageable playbook. By the end of our time together, you're going to have a crystal clear roadmap of exactly what it takes to achieve, and more importantly, maintain this absolutely crucial security standard. And the best part? We're going to do it without completely burning out your team.
So be completely honest with me right now. Are you cramming for your compliance audit? Because way too many organizations treat SOC 2 like it's a college final exam. You know the drill. They ignore the material for months, and then literally 2 weeks before the auditor shows up, it is absolute chaos. Teams are scrambling, pulling all-nighters, frantically trying to dig up logs and access reviews from like 9 months ago. If that sounds even slightly familiar, or if you're a leader who wants to guarantee your organization never falls into that trap, you are in exactly the right place.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap. First, what is SOC 2? Second, the right versus wrong approach. Third, core trust services criteria. Fourth, the 12-month audit cycle. And finally, beyond the final report.
Section 1. What is SOC 2? Let's understand the foundation. So what actually is a Type 2 report? Simply put, it's an attestation covering the suitability of your design and the operating effectiveness of your controls over a period of time. Now, I really want to highlight that phrase right there, over a period of time. Unlike a Type 1 report, which is honestly just a snapshot of a single day, a Type 2 report usually covers 6 to 12 months. It's proving not just that you went out and bought a lock for the front door, but that you actually remembered to lock it every single day for an entire year. It is all about continuous operational effectiveness.
And what exactly are auditors grading you against? That would be the Trust Services Criteria, or the TSC. This is the official framework established by the AICPA, which is the governing body for certified public accountants. Look, this is the gold standard. When auditors come into your business, they aren't just making up the rules as they go. They're meticulously measuring your organization's controls against this specific, globally recognized framework.
Moving into Section 2, the right versus the wrong approach. How to predict your outcome.
Now, what's really interesting here is the stark contrast in how companies actually handle this. There are basically two operational realities. Done wrong, this process is just incredibly painful. We're talking cramming evidence at the last minute, realizing you skipped a bunch of access reviews, and then suffering through surprise findings in your audit. But done right, it's completely sustainable. You've got continuous evidence collection, quarterly documented reviews, and security policies that actually live in your daily operations, not just buried in some dusty PDF on the company intranet.
Which brings us to the most crucial point. When you implement the done right approach, the audit simply becomes routine confirmation. It totally eliminates the stress. You aren't sitting there hoping you pass. You already know for a fact that you'll pass. That continuous readiness turns what used to be a massive, stressful event into a boring, predictable, everyday business routine. And let me tell you, in the world of compliance, boring is exactly what you want.
All right, Section 3, Core Trust Services Criteria, what you need to protect. To build a truly defensible checklist, you've got to have these 5 essential elements in place. First, a complete control universe. That's your inventory of everything that's in scope. Second, an organized evidence vault. You need a dedicated, secure place to continuously store your proof. Third, an operational cadence. Think doing your access reviews quarterly and checking metrics monthly. Fourth, a thoroughly maintained incident log with response evidence. And fifth, vendor reviews, an up-to-date inventory of your subprocessors. If you've got these 5 pillars, your foundation is absolutely rock solid.
Now, those 5 pillars support the Trust Services Criteria itself, which basically translates all those dense compliance rules into actual bottom-line business value. Security is the big one. It focuses on protection from unauthorized access, and it's actually the only mandatory criterion. But depending on your specific business, you might also need availability, which guarantees system uptime, processing integrity, ensuring accurate data processing, confidentiality for proper data retention and handling, or privacy, which deals with consent and personal info use. You don't have to tackle all 5, but you absolutely must master the ones you commit to.
Section 4, the 12-month audit cycle. Let's look at a sustainable roadmap.
Let's move ahead and see how this actually builds across a full calendar year. Months 1 and 2, that's for your prep and scope confirmation. Then you enter this massive 7-month operating period from month 3 to 9 where you are continuously collecting evidence.
Months 10 and 11 are for your pre-audit walkthrough and closing any remaining gaps. And finally, month 12 is the actual auditor fieldwork. Breaking it down like this really proves that SOC 2 isn't just a one-and-done project. It is a seasonal business cycle.
Let's zoom in on those absolute make-or-break first 2 months, pre-audit prep. If you're an IT director or a founder listening right now, these are the exact steps you need to take to get this off the ground correctly. Step 1, define your scope and figure out which of those trust services criteria you actually need. Step 2, select a highly qualified CPA firm and do it early. Step 3, perform a thorough gap assessment to find out exactly where you're falling short. And Step 4, develop a realistic remediation plan to fix those gaps before the clock even starts ticking.
While you're executing all that prep, your documentation needs to be, well, flawless. You absolutely must create a centralized evidence repository, that evidence vault we talked about earlier. You've got to organize everything by control objective and map it directly to the trust services criteria. Whatever you do, do not hand an auditor a messy, unorganized folder full of random screenshots. Structuring this documentation properly before the auditor even begins their fieldwork, that is the ultimate secret to a fast, painless audit.
Which brings us to Section 5, Beyond the Final Report. Let's talk about leveraging your attestation. Because the work doesn't just stop when you get that final report handed to you. Honestly, that is when the most valuable phase kicks in. Your post-audit strategy is all about leverage. Steps 1 and 2 are your continuous improvement phase, documenting any deficiencies and updating controls so next year is even easier. But steps 3 and 4, that's where the ROI lives. You brief the executive team, and then you actively share that report out with prospects to build serious trust, shorten your sales cycles, and win bigger enterprise business. Your SOC 2 isn't just some plaque to hang on the wall, it is a literal revenue-generating asset.
So I'm going to leave you with this one final pretty critical question. Will your next audit be a surprise finding or just a routine confirmation? You've got the visual roadmap, you know the timeline, and you understand the checklist framework to make the right choice. By shifting away from that chaotic, last-minute cramming and embracing a continuous operational cadence, you are taking complete control of your organization's compliance strategy. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, here's to making your next audit your absolute easiest one yet.